What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Weekly Cheddar. Jake Javon here with you guys. It's been a while. It's good to be back and rolling on some of this stuff. Obviously wanted to do this episode, this live, a little earlier than this, but honestly battled exhaustion from the draft, where my sleep schedule was pretty much all over the place, to the point where like evenings were just not working. So it took a while, but we've got it kind of, I think, under control. So tonight, just going to go through, I think, every pick more so, kind of paint the picture of the class as a whole, and kind of give you guys an elevator pitch style of each selection. We'll kind of go over a few things. I got a couple other things that I want to hit on as well. From the perspective of the class, just from other outside, I would say, other outside voices, and what they think about this draft as well. So I'm excited to roll through this. It's going to be a lot of me talking, but obviously, we'll the comments will let you guys kind of take over if necessary, and just talk about it a lot. So yeah, let's begin. Let's start with, I think, probably maybe everybody's most surprised selection. I think overall it was Jordan Morgan going 25th. I think there was a lot of like shock and awe, and a lot that was like, oh wow, this is just not what I expected Green Bay to do. But then you kind of look at, what Morgan did, 6'5", 311. You look at the bench numbers, really strong. You look at, the athleticism overall, really, really strong as a player. And, whether or not he ends up playing guard or left tackle, either way, I think you look at him as being an effective player for this team immediately. And even with this kind of, I would say for the elevator pitch for him is he's oozing tools, but refinement is necessary. And for those who have watched the Jordan Morgan, breakdown, you kind of have seen that with Jordan Morgan, right? There's so much in terms of the movement skills and how he mirrors and how he handles things in the run game that make you really excited for inside zone, outside zone, wide zone, all that stuff in the run game, but also just relying on him to either lose slowly in terms of pass protection, or just be utterly dominant in terms of speed rushers. All these guys are going to throw a lot of counters his way. Like, he has a lot of answers for that. The one, I think caveat with Morgan is, of course, the hand placement. And it's a thing with a lot of tackles. And I think we kind of talked about this day one of the live show, right? Day two of the live show with a lot of these tackles, where it's like some of these guys just, they didn't have, they just don't have that refinement, and they would just more rely on their size, their athleticism to do a lot of the work for them in pass protection rather than hand placement. And that's where we get, Amarius Mims dealt with that. Tyler Guyton dealt with that. I think, other than maybe Fashanu and Alt, it was just kind of like, this is how guys are. Fautan is probably, included in that a little bit more. But this is just how a lot of the tackle prospects are. Like, you looked last year, Paris Johnson dealt with this. Broderick Jones dealt with this. Darnell Wright at times dealt with this. So it's not uncommon anymore. And now it just feels like linemen in general are now going down the road of all right, this is you have to be in a good situation with good coaching, and guys will hit on the fundamentals with you real quick, but you also have to be able to retain it and get up to speed quickly. And it seems like Jordan Morgan, with the way he, carried himself in a lot of the interview stuff and how he's, addressed the media, he seems like a player who's ready to step in, get to work, and do his best to become a franchise, either A, left tackle, or B, a guard, positionally flexible player that who knows how Green Bay sees the O-line, right? All those rumors about Zach Tom, where he moves long-term, who knows? But Jordan Morgan just feels like and I put this in the title of the video, is I think he could be a foundational piece. And it was clear that the way Goody has talked now post-draft, as we've kind of gotten to see things settle down, it was very clear he had offers to move back, and this was discussed. He had said this. They had offers to move back in the draft, right? He had offers to, move back to 28, 30, all these spots, and he's just like, I didn't want to lose out on potentially drafting Jordan Morgan because of that. And I think that should tell you all you need to know about how Goody feels about Jordan Morgan, and how the scouts and the organization feels about him, like immediately. So I think I think Princess is a good point, right? I think it kind of does make sense if he's a left tackle. I just, I think with Jordan Morgan, I think I'm going to kind of hit on this at the end. It's interesting the way Green Bay did this offensive line, how they handled their offensive line picks. I'm just wondering what the plan's going to be at right guard. Now, you say all of that and then maybe Sean Ryan just leaps onto the scene and becomes that guy, and it was like, oh wow, like that's how it goes. Like this is guys develop, right? So that's a possibility, right? We could see that, but interested to see if it's just a true they're just going to let him go to battle. Left tackle, Jordan Morgan, Rasheed Walker, whoever wins the job, or if they're like, let's try to play this best five. If Rasheed Walker struggles out of the gate and we just he was kind of flash in the pan late last season, which is entirely possible. They have the solution. They can best five their way out of maybe any situation that they see coming their way in the fall. Really quick as we're going through, Shane Wizard, what's going on? Chris, how you doing? SDM 40, that needed to get over not drafting a receiver. It's clear that there was stuff with Burton, so Adam Huddle, what's going on? Joseph, good to see you. Bullard's fave pick. Listen, not everybody's going to get 100% right of who's on Green Bay's board and who isn't. And Goody has, I think, proven that he has sort of diverted a little bit at times every draft, but he has mainly stuck to it. I mean, Jordan Morgan, other than maybe arm length, even though the arm length's not that short, I think it is, this feels right on par with somebody that the Packers would pick. I think most of us thought it was going to be the case at 41 rather than 25, and maybe that was more of the shock value than anything else. Ayers Joy, what's going on, says we had the best draft class up there with the Colts in terms of value finding. Not really counting teams, just yeah, that's the thing, right? Like Ayers Joy, I think it's a good point. Like that's the thing. I think it's kind of fair to just be like, yeah, the Bears won the draft because they had high picks. It's like, well, yeah, Caleb and Rome. Anybody could have drafted Caleb and Rome and gotten good grades, right? That was very clear. So it is interesting to more look at teams who found the value, at least relative to what we think. Obviously, that's going to change in 3 years. The value that we perceive right now is probably not going to be the case in 3 years, but based on what we've seen evaluation wise and projection wise and how everything turned out, I think the Colts are a good one to point out in that regard. But I think Green Bay did a pretty solid job. Respect Orange just says solid pick, should turn to a great leader. Big but not heavy has Bach vibes. Yeah, I mean 6'5", 311 is exactly the type that Green Bay likes at the position. It's tailor-made. It really is. Just, maybe more so at people thought at 41 than at 25. But it is great to see Green Bay, I think, realize okay, we've hit on some guys, later in the draft at offensive line. We're not taking chances at offensive line. We got to get this. We have to reinforce this offensive line, protect Jordan Love. That should be priority number one on the offensive side of the ball. And I think 3 picks. I think they did a solid job of showing that they're that is a priority of theirs. Joseph says he preferred DeJean, Edgerrin, and Bullard as the first 3 picks, but I did like Morgan a lot. I just think DeJean. I think we got so caught up in DeJean that I just feel like he actually needed to go to a place like Philly. I'm just not sure. I was very on the fence with DeJean. I think he needed to be a nickel, and I think he still does, even in a lot of systems. So I think the DeJean one, everybody was kind of sad about that, but I do think that Green Bay. I think they're going to have a potential nickel in Javon Bullard, who we're going to kind of talk about in a little bit as well, but. Edgerrin and Bullard, it's nice that they got 2 of your 3. SDM 40 says I'm most surprised about Lloyd and how some had him as, Yeah, number one running back. That was wild. I know DJ said he had the high at the very least. I think DJ said he had the highest ceiling. I think he might have had him as the number one back in the draft. I think Jim Nagy did as well. I just didn't see that because I think the ball security was a serious thing where it was like that kind of stuff if that leaks into the NFL, and it's going to be the same thing with Braylon Allen too, right? Like if those things persist, that's a problem, and you cannot be trusted to be on the field like that. Now, 8 times in 3 seasons, I know he's had limited carries, right? He hasn't been like a workhorse necessarily that some have been, but I was surprised that people had him as the number one back. I think I had him in tier like 4 or tier 3 with the backs, but I mean the ceiling is very high with a player like Lloyd, and we'll touch on him for sure. Airjoy says Morgan looks like he has really good positioning most times. Yeah, I think he is in a good position a lot. I think it's just more about where the hands are in position relative to everything else. Once that's all cleared up, I think he's going to be a good pro. Joseph said Lloyd's a stud. Love that pick. Wanted him or Wright. Yeah, Wright or Shipley. Yeah, Shipley would have been a phenomenal pass game back, even if you don't trust him as much between the tackles. But I think Philly got a nice player there to complement Barkley for sure. Joseph says Morgan mirrors solidly and nasty wall. Hopefully it continues for sure. I know we talked about this Prince as well. Talk about him being, more of a, this is a pick to be a left tackle. Yeah, it's very true. Airjoy says didn't want to Gene. Really glad we got a tackle instead. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think Quinion and Terrion Arnold for me were like guys. It was like just itching for Green Bay to find a way to move up from 25. I think that would have been cool to see them get a corner like that. But it's clear that I think they have a vision. At least, they obviously took Kalen King, and we're going to talk about him. But I do think that, you look at, maybe how they feel about Valentine, how they feel about Stokes. It's clear that they were fine with that and didn't really have a lot of interest in the corners early, unless maybe outside of those top 2 guys. So Pro Bowl guard would be solid. Yeah, I mean this is a very measurable pick for sure. Curious if Green Bay ranked Morgan over Fautanu. Maybe it's possible that they see Morgan as having more potential to play left tackle than Fautanu. I know there was one team in the draft that had Fautanu as a center only. Some teams had him as an interior player. A lot of people graded him as an interior player. It's not impossible. But that would be interesting to know. Obviously, they're not going to say any of that. They kind of keep their board close to the vest. It'd be nice to know. Maybe we'll ask Goody in a while. Let's see. Can Rasheed Walker play guard? I don't think so. I just don't. For Rasheed Walker, I think it seems like to me anyway that with all I think the refinement that he needed to work on, I wouldn't try to flip him to right guard, right tackle at all. I would just let him settle in on the left side, maybe left guard, but I think you have a lot of guys lining up to play that position to the point where I think that. You just at the very least you just leave him to be the swing tackle. If he feels comfortable moving over to the right side, maybe you look at that and you're looking at Tom DeCenter. I know they're talking about this, in house right now, but I wouldn't move him. I would not move Rasheed Walker to this point. I think he's built to play tackle. Prince said he wanted Benson to fall to 88. Glad they grabbed Lloyd. Yeah, I think grabbing Lloyd or Wright would have been pretty much exactly the types that Green Bay wanted. I was kind of surprised at Lloyd because he was just more of an older guy. I was more expecting the Jalen Wright. I thought, young player, potential to take over, good in pass pro. Like Jalen Wright felt tailor-made for Green Bay. But I do think I think the one thing about Lloyd versus Wright to me is Green Bay maybe shifting their commitment to more inside zone and some gap stuff and a lot more power run, perhaps. especially because they added Jacobs to the point where they're like, maybe they just thought this, and then maybe, I'm not putting words in their mouth. I'm just speculating. Maybe they thought that Jalen Wright was just a wide zone, outside zone running back. Didn't feel like he fit well. It's not impossible. So, Sheet is a no guard. Jacob, what's going on, man? This podcast is brought to you by Home Depot. Heck yeah. We'll get to our guy here very, very soon. No doubt about it. I think I got his film room scheduled for tomorrow. So I got to wrap up those. I know Jacob Monk dropped today. We'll kind of talk about him as well. But yeah, I'm excited for these safeties for sure. I'm gonna get to these quick. We'll get to our guy Edgerrin Cooper here, but Joseph thinks the Steelers had the best draft. Yeah, they got some dogs up front, man. I mean, Fautanu, Frazier, and McCormick. I mean, talk about just wanting to kick people in the teeth, like legitimately for 4 quarters. I mean, not that they're all going to necessarily start right away. I don't think McCormick is, based on, I talk with a couple of my guys out there covering the Steelers. It seems like they probably are going to stick with guys that have been there a little bit longer to play guard immediately, but it sounds like Fautanu and Frazier are going to play right away. But those are phenomenal picks. Not surprising that the Steelers brought in guys from Philly and are just like, yeah, trenches are the way. So respect to Oranges, protect that QB is about to get paid, no doubt. Coach Hewlin dropping in says, Morgan looks like a converted tight end. Yeah, he does have great feet, and that is, I think, going to be essential for a lot of what Green Bay does offensively, right? Not just being on an island of pass pro. So Lions draft grade gushing again. I don't understand. I think it was, Adam, because they filled a key need that they just struggled time and time again with last year. They couldn't cover anybody last year. They were having to win shootouts because they didn't have a cover corner, and I continuously was shocked that Detroit decided to pass on Christian Gonzalez last year to take a linebacker and a running back in the first. And I know Jahmyr Gibbs is awesome. There's no doubt. Jahmyr Gibbs is had a heck of a year. It was crucial for them. But like to have a young corner like that and Christian Gonzalez, who I think is going to bounce back in a big way this year for New England, they could have solved that. So I think the way that the Lions are getting graded well because, hey, they got value in Wingo and Mahogany late, I think, based on what a lot of people think there, but also adding Rakestraw and Arnold to help fix a secondary that was just gashed last year, time and time again. That's why they're getting graded well, for sure. Everybody talking about the Chargers O-line, but the Steelers look scary. Yeah, I think the Chargers O-line is just legitimately like, oh yeah, they have Slater and Alt now. Great, awesome. Like that's what I think is going to be the case. But yeah, the Steelers do look scary. I'm not surprised they didn't extend Najee because I don't think he's a wide zone fit. That's why I don't imagine they're going to bring him back. I don't. I think Jalen Warren's going to be taking over a lot this year. Little nugget for your fantasy teams because I just think he's going to fit Smith's scheme a lot better than Najee is. Najee needs those power looks, man. This wide zone stuff. I don't know about Najee in Pittsburgh going forward. So I was on the fence with Kool-Aid. Wasn't crazy. Loved Eugene. He was my Javon Holland type. Yeah, if they viewed him like that, then yeah, I think they would have taken him. I'm wondering what they viewed him as. Maybe just a nickel, or maybe just like he's a corner, but he's not a good fit, and like they just didn't like the fit there. Maybe so. Yeah, Steelers O-line is definitely awesome. Packers won the draft by having 11 picks. Love what we did. Yeah, I think they mirrored need with value pretty well. For sure. Enamored with Holland as well. I get liking Arnold, but after that, Rake's okay, and I reached. Yeah, they definitely reached for the O-line and Sione Vaki, but yeah, maybe Mahogany is a knee thing, but I think it's legitimately because they fixed key things. So, what's up, M. Smitty? Coach Hewlin says the versatility makes Morgan valuable. Yeah, I think when you're in the mid to late 20s, I know Prince was kind of talking about like if that's not a pick for left tackle, I don't know, why they would pick him. They need help at more than one spot. Green Bay does, and so, I think that at that point in the draft, taking a guard at 25, I don't think is insane. So, yeah, I think if he can play, if he can help, wherever, that's going to make him that much more valuable. I agree. What's going on, Mark? How you doing? I agree about Arnold at corner. Yeah, the real Joseph is here now. Nice, 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 nice. Mark says, "How did you learn to do what you do?" Be more specific. Mark? What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Just like scouting, or I wouldn't say I've learned it all, but be more specific. If you mean scouting, let me know. STM40 says Lloyd has low mileage on the tires. Absolutely. Yeah, Coach, this is a good point. I feel like you see McVay doing it, right? McVay is clearly building a team that's wanting to run more power, more gap stuff, because they've got maulers now. Jonah Jackson, Steve Avila, and Kevin Dotson on their interior. That's not wide zone stuff anymore. Those guys aren't wide zone guys. Those guys are, help these running backs get north-south in a hurry type of deal. So, I think that's going to be we're going to see a lot more of that for sure. Monk could be the answer at right guard. Yeah, we're going to talk about him in a little bit as well. Coach says Eagles had the best draft. It's hard not to say. Yeah, hard not to agree with that. I mean, I think DeJean, you're getting him in his best fit in a Fangio scheme, where he's going to be able to do a lot of match stuff, and he's going to be able to, work more in zone, which I think is going to benefit him. Also, Quinyon Mitchell in zone and off man is some scary stuff for him. That's two phenomenal fits by them. I'm trying to remember what else the Eagles did. I need to pull up their draft. Because, man, it's what else did they do? I this is the thing. The exhaustion set in, and okay, let's see here. What do we do? Jalix Hunt, yeah. Will Shipley, I'd love his passing game back. Anaya Smith, they got Trotter late, yeah. Trevor Keegan, Johnny, and they got Dylan McMahon. Yeah, they still got O-line late. Yeah, that's pretty good. Eagles did a pretty good job there, for sure. Donovan Jennings, yeah, I'm going to touch on the UDFAs. I think either later this week on a live or next week on a live, and just talk about some of those guys. I know Jones from Michigan was just put on the reserve retired list, so I was interested to talk about him because I thought there was some potential there as well. But alas, no more. So Donovan Jennings, probably that leader in the clubhouse right now, is somebody who can be that guy. So thoughts on Monk being the new center? That's a possibility. Yeah. I remember seeing the Jacobs highlight where he bounced around the whole front seven for a huge run. Yeah, he kind of had to go off script last year, and that's what's tough is when you start to have to believe you have to freelance. That's when it gets really tough where you're going, well, how do you evaluate the running back when you clearly see the offensive line? I think I put this in my Jacobs video, I'm pretty sure, where it's just kind of his offensive line's getting beat immediately. There be a play where the right guard gets beat, play where the left guard gets beat, and then it's suddenly making Jacobs adjust on the fly 2-3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and it's not helpful at all. When he was cooking, the line was playing a lot better, and they're not losing immediately, right? They're not, gaps are closing in an instant. They were doing enough for him to let him take over as well. Once he got that second level, third level, he was cooking. And so I think that it's going to be better when you have a group in front of you that you can trust, and you can stay patient. You can attack when you need to. So, yeah, I think that's a good point regarding Jacobs. Joseph says, I think with all the subterfuge about Thompson, it actually might be Elton Jenkins. It could be. I think there's a chance for that. I think it gives, credence to the idea of now you could play Jordan Morgan at left guard perhaps, and he's not kicking it to the right side, and you're not, making him make that adjustment. So it's nice to have these, guys who are flexible. It just makes things a lot easier to be okay, we can do this in a pinch. We can do this. It's nice for sure. Yeah, I get that, Joy. I get what you're saying there. Najee's built to produce against big boxes with, when they're running more power inside zone. But I feel like they're going to get away from that, and he just doesn't have that burst and a lot of speed to be dominant in what we believe Smith's going to do. But $17 million a year center, that's a heck of a flex. I mean, hey, whatever gets the job done. Whatever gets the job done. Never going to be upset with Green Bay going O-line early. Thankfully, it wasn't Guyton. Yeah, I agree. But honestly, like, if Guyton going to Dallas or Green Bay probably would have been fine for him. Like, we got to remember that. Like, there are some places where Guyton goes where you're like, that's it. Nope, not going to happen. Like, wherever, because Callahan's with his son, I think, in Tennessee now, where it's like, oh, maybe J.C. Latham is going to be good because, he's going to a good spot where he's, going to get a lot of work and he's going to be able to be a sponge and learn. Like, I think, as much as we talk about, quarterbacks and running backs and receivers going to the right spots, like O-line going to the right spots matters too. There's no doubt about it. So, we like the potential for the front line, no doubt. Oh, analysis or scouting? Okay. So what was the question? How did you learn to do what you do? Yeah, Mark, I think it's just kind of be a sponge, read a lot, listen to a lot of people. Like, I've listened to, gosh, there's so many names, where, I'm like, oh, I want to learn more about the receiver position. I'll go, there's a few guys that I look to right now in the space on social media where, like, I want to listen to everything they're saying about the receiver position because they're so detailed in their approach. And so, like, I'll do that. You listen to guys like Mike Wall, you listen to guys like Voch Lombardi talk about offensive line, and I think it gives you a great idea of a lot of things. I think linebacker's the toughest thing to learn. Like, you have to learn a lot about run fits and the techniques that D-line need to play. Like, there's so much that goes into it. I feel like I'm not even that well versed, honestly. I think there's things I can spot, but there's also things where I got to learn. And so I'll be reading a bunch again this off season. I've got a lot of books to my left in a bin here that I'm probably going to be turning pages on a bunch when I get kind of done with this and the content eases a little bit in the summer. There'll still be plenty of stuff, but so I think, it's just kind of be a sponge early on. Read, listen, get your hands on anything you can to learn, because I think it shows you, like, how much you don't know. And I think, like, once you realize you're like, I don't know squat. Like, what am I doing here? Like, when you hit that trough of, like, disillusionment a little bit earlier, you kind of go, okay, well, all right, now it's just kind of learn and let's take it day by day. And I'm still doing that, obviously. So but I do think, that's the best advice. I think, Mark, if you want to get at me on Twitter, I can show you a few names to follow. I follow, like, high school coaches as well that put together stuff on, like, how defenses work, how, like, I watch a lot of stuff on the guys that talk about, like, quarters coverage and how the Fangio defense worked, and, like, there's a lot going on with that, and, like, Saban's coverages, and so, like, there's so much to learn. Like, it's feel like it's like the biggest onion you could possibly think of to peel back layers on for this. So I'm not even close yet, to be honest, but I think that's the best advice. Attacking the 230-pound linebackers head on instead of letting them chase. Yeah. And I think I'm wondering when we're going to get back to these linebackers being 240, 250 again. Like, I get that's why Detroit wanted Jack Campbell. I get it, because he's like 247 or something like that. That's what he was. But it's hard. You're sacrificing, coverage ability when you get guys like that. So it's tough. You have to commit to one or the other, kind of. And I know a lot of teams are kind of like, yeah, let's have these guys that can cover a lot of ground for the passing game, for the outside run. And, teams are going to adjust. It's cyclical. So Mark says he thinks that Monk is a better center than guard right now. I would agree with that. Eagles week 1 is going to be a big test on both sides, for sure. Their O-line is all class. They're going to get after it. Their D-line's got a lot of studs. It's going to be a battle in the trenches. It's going to be a nice litmus test early on for what this group looks like up front on both sides. no doubt about it. So Packers don't seem to mind mixing in O-line as much as other teams. Because you see Monk getting sub to the interior. Maybe. I think Joseph is just kind of, he's going to get a lot of preseason reps, right? Monk is, and he should be getting a lot of them. Just as I'm wondering how much they're going to give him at guard, give him at center. That'll obviously be a big tell. See where Green Bay views him. I mean, yeah, if they're blowing someone out, like, if they've got a 38-10 lead in the fourth quarter, maybe they'll get him some reps for sure. I'm sure we're going to see Michael Pratt get reps in that scenario. So, yeah, it's possible. Zach Tom should be the left tackle going forward. I mean, there's no doubt he's their best pass player. He's their best offensive lineman right now. I know Elton Jenkins is very, very good, but Tom's been playing better. So Tom has been just utterly dominant. I think he's probably one of the best players right now in the league who's not a household name. Just because nobody's talk about not many people talk about O-line as much, right? They're looking for the flashy playmakers instead. Like what Tom has done through a couple seasons is tremendous. Everyone want to be the next Miami speed offense. Yeah, I mean, I think Miami's success is built on the fact that they can generate explosive plays in both phases to the point where they have the linebackers in just the linebackers playing against Miami are just thinking a million miles a second to the point where you got to commit to one or the other. And with a built-in quick release like Tua Tagovailoa has, it's built really well. I got to give McDaniel a lot of credit for what he's built for Tua out there because they added Beckham, they add Malik Washington, and now they have Jalen Wright. They have so much speed and a lot of depth to their speed on this roster now. They kind of make linebackers choose, and they're going to choose incorrectly most of the time. But Miami really didn't address the line that much, and that's what makes them a house of cards a little bit, I think. So this is funny by Bubba One. That's funny. I like that. Yeah, not being able to take the guys with Santa Pence as consequences. There's joy. Well, we got really derailed. We covered one player, and we're off to the races here. So, look at Barry's defense, soft coverage. It was susceptible to not short routes. Yeah, for sure. Not being aggressive, right? Any classes? The Scouting Academy, Mark, does really good stuff if you want to go there. They've got good classes. Otherwise, there are coaching clinics you can look up on YouTube. I think that they have a lot of them where, you'll look at stuff for receivers, they talk about defensive back stuff. So if you look for coaching clinics, Saban has some, I know Sarkisian has some on offense, right? Texas head coach does. So you just kind of have to look for some. Mark, I'll put some in the comments for this live, and I'll give you some links you can look at for sure. So, yeah, Mark, I'll put some links in the comments for that for sure. There's a lot. I have a lot of them. I appreciate that, Joseph. I think I've got work to do on the defensive side of the ball for sure. But yeah, it's tough. You're going to be wrong a lot in this business. So blockers would dismantle the corners playing off. Got to say, yeah, this is why they're making the adjustment, right? On defense to basically all right, we're going to play aggressive. This is, I mean, they've got, Quay Walker's a decently big linebacker. So that helps a little bit, but yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to see this defense in action. Yeah, the linebacker safety scout, especially linebacker coach, is all over the place. It's so funny when you look back at previous drafts, right? If you go to the NFL mock draft database and look at the consensus linebacker one in the last few drafts, last 6-7 drafts, never it rarely, if ever, are they the linebacker one in the class at this point. I think Roquan Smith might be the one exception. It's we don't even remember guys like Zaven Collins and Jamin Davis going in the first round. Those guys were first round picks a couple years ago. And Isaiah Simmons never found a spot. Like, yeah. Whoever's our West Coast scout is the man. Oh, yeah. Sam Seal. I think somebody put it down here. Yeah. Both Josephs put him down there. But appreciate y'all. Mark saying don't forget to hit the like button. I appreciate that. Of course. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited when we can get back to 245, 250 pound linebackers. I'm kind of surprised they didn't go after Colson in Green Bay. I thought they were going to potentially do that. So, yeah, Sam Seal, West Coast scout. Yes. Yeah, Goot definitely does trust him. Yeah, scouting classes are a thing. Yeah, it's Scouting Academy has them. I took them with a different website, but theirs is a really good one. So, all right, let's talk a little bit really quick, just because we're one of like 11 picks. Let's talk Cooper just a little bit, because I think, obviously I've talked about him. Well, obviously, I'll lead to the comments for you guys for sure. But I just want to talk about Cooper for a second. I know you've probably seen the video on him that we've put on the channel for sure. He truly, I think, when he is flowing to the football and when he can keep himself clean, right? Not just when he's kept clean, but when he can keep himself clean with good instincts downhill, like he is going to be a factor in the run game for sure. He's got the closing speed. He's got instincts. He can tackle. Like, I think that Green Bay's getting a playmaker here. I think Quay Walker, to me, is better in coverage with his instincts right now than Cooper is at this point. But I do think there is going to be a lot that Cooper's going to get put on his plate in year one, blitzing, coverage. Maybe he gets the green dot. We'll see. It sounds more like that Quay Walker will hold that, or at least be the Mike linebacker. Maybe McKinney gets the green dot. I know I talked about that a little bit, but man, Cooper's exciting. He's going to have to use the length that he has, 34-inch arm length for a linebacker, right? Like, this is a big deal, right? This is an inch and an eighth longer arms than Jordan Morgan. And he's playing linebacker. Like, it's a big deal. So I think, I think McKinney's ultimately going to get the green dot. I think Cooper could play Mike. If they want to play Quay Walker at Mike, that's fine. But I think Cooper can use that length to get off blocks more. He's going to be really, really effective. And with the way he can blitz, with the way he can, with the range that he has to play, like, it's just all about, how quickly he can develop with game reps. That's what's going to be really exciting. Like, watching Cooper in camp, in preseason, is going to be a lot of fun, because he as long as, like, he isn't in his own head with a lot of stuff in terms of the eye candy that teams are going to throw his way and stuff, like, if he trusts himself more and he trusts what the coaching staff is putting on his plate, like, he can fly around and make plays. So, no doubt about that. Oh, yeah. Travis Glover reminds me of Earl Dotson. Big dude, small school, good run blocker, needs work with technique. Yeah. Yeah, technique's a big part of why I think Glover's more of a project. Was the issue with Simmons diagnosing? I think it's just, like, he was just really good at roaming around and making plays, that he felt like more of a big safety with some of the range that he had and the athleticism that he had. And I don't know, like, playing overhang, playing will linebacker was, like, something he, was comfortable with early on. And I think he's still in New York now with the Giants. Like, it just seems like he was just, that was part of it, but also that he just, the processing part of the game, making that switch was tough on him. Is Bullard my favorite pick? Yeah, I think so. Even more so than Oladapo, which is crazy. Yeah, I think Bullard is my favorite pick. I gotta say, Marshon Lloyd's a lot of fun as well. But yeah, I do think it's Bullard. So, well, thank you, Mark, and I will not forget to put those links down there for sure. But yeah, I appreciate that, of course. Bubba wants to, what's your take on Goody's mindset regarding the offensive lines and the free agency tackle? Signed the undrafted free agent. Yep, drafted 3 players. I don't know. I think Goody wanted to add versatile guys, and they've always usually wanted to add guys with tackle experience. Obviously, Monk doesn't have that, but it was clear that they had a need on the interior, and I think that was addressed well. I do think there's still more of a finesse team right now. I think Monk obviously provides some of that nastiness, and Morgan definitely does as well at times. But it seems like they're a little more finesse than a kind of a punch you in the mouth type of offensive line. But they have the versatility, and I think that is key to putting out a best 5. Whatever that best 5 ends up being, I think that's what probably they harped on a lot this offseason. That's what, Stanovich and LaFleur and Goody and the scouts got together and maybe just kind of like, throwing these ideas off. We're like, okay, we like Rasheed Walker. We would like competition there. We need help at guard. We've got these guys in Tom and Jenkins who can be flexible as well. Let's get more flexible guys, but also have, a place for them right now with where they, should be playing. I think that the mindset was versatility and best 5. I think that seems very clear after the draft now. Ayers Joy thinks Cooper's going to be a superstar linebacker. Done. There you go. Doubt they give the green dot to a rookie. Probably. I think truthfully, I do think that McKinney probably ends up with it, honestly. Which I know people are like, well, how can the safety be that? He can be that. He with the way that they're potentially going to be set up, I think there's a chance that he can be the guy who gets everybody in alignment. If not, it's probably going to be Quay. But I mean, with all the experience McKinney has and the way that everybody talks about him glowingly and the way that he's going to carry himself, the way he's a leader, wouldn't shock me. So, yeah, the Hopper bet is the most interesting one because I think that might be their biggest reach. But it could be, the biggest reward there. Yeah, I agree with this. Ayers Joy, I agree. Prince says he thinks Hopper may turn out to be the best linebacker in coverage. He does seem to have better instincts at this point than Cooper does in coverage. I think he's more on par with where Quay is at the moment, which I think very interesting about him. So I'm excited to see how that turns out. Goot knows Elton and Zach are set at the time. Depth and raw guys. Yeah, I mean, they definitely added some of that. Yeah. But versatility is a big deal. Big deal. Cooper is definitely a menace for sure. Yep. Competition's a good, and versatility. Yeah, for sure. Are you guys the same? You guys might be. Coach Hewlin's on this too. I agree, McKinney with the green dot. I just feel like that. I feel like that's really going to be how it's approached. It just seems like that's guy with the most experience, right? It's not like I feel like if Quay was further along where they were like, wow, he's doing all these things. This is really, really impressive how he's playing, right? He's a star at this point. Then I think you give it to him. But yeah, I think McKinney makes a lot of sense. Let's do a mock draft. Want to talk receivers next year? We can talk receivers next year. I said once I'm done with all of the post-draft stuff that I'm going to dive into receiver for next year. Luther Burden, Missouri. Tatayaroa McMillan from Arizona. Two studs. Cooper has me convinced. Bullard second and Evan third. Yeah, Evan does really good job in transition for sure. That's something that will be highlighted in his film this week for sure. Interesting test is to redo this draft and only take players still available. That would be fun. We could do that on a later show, no doubt. Hopper's a former DB. Yeah, that definitely shows. Only became a linebacker at Florida, did just about 25 starts. Yeah, it doesn't seem like he had a lot of snaps, which when you're making that transition, it makes a lot of sense. But he does seem way more natural in coverage. He has his flashes when he works downhill, but you can tell that like there are times where he just feels he's just kind of like I am way more comfortable away from the ball. So yeah. That way Quake can play and just not think. Yeah, 100%, coach. 100%. Yeah, we could do this. I'm going to star this, Joseph. Redo the draft and only take player. We're going to do that. I'm putting that on the schedule. What else are we going to do, with this live show, right? There's not a lot to talk about, so I like that. I like that a lot. Let me I've just got to jot this down for sure. I got to jot this down so that we have it for a later date, because I think that will be, yeah. There is something to that. Where are we here? Yeah. Where is this? Yeah. Hopper was a DB. Yeah, I think he started. I gotta go find it. Oh yeah, it's on the Missouri site. He started his high school career at safety. After his sophomore year, he moved to linebacker. So, yeah, he does have safety experience. Yeah, that'll be difficult, but I do think like Oladapo in this scheme, I think is going to be. I think he's going to be pretty defined in what he's going to do. I know that he has some versatility, but I feel like the way that Green Bay addressed safety earlier with Williams and Bullard makes me feel like those are going to be the versatile guys, and they've got something in mind for Oladapo and where he might play. Cooper had the best burst out of the linebackers. Yeah, the 10-yard split for Cooper is really impressive. Yeah, that 10-yard is insane. It's just, it is insane. So something he doesn't tackle the best, always due to lack of knee bend. I think there are times that is the case, unless you're talking about. Well, I think Cooper and Hopper both have that a little bit. So yeah, he was a DB. He was. Similar background for Fred Warner. That's pretty sick. SEM 40, pouring some cool water, but probably necessary. Where yeah. I mean, we're talking about a lot about these guys. We're excited about them, which we should be. In reality, 3 or 4 of these guys work out, right? That's kind of how it usually goes. Tough for bigger guys to succeed. Yeah, I think Oladapo is going to be interesting if they're because I know Nagy talked about him like, oh, maybe they view him as a dime backer. Boy, at that size, man, I don't know. That's light even for a dime backer. Yeah, this is true. Yeah, he had 8 sacks. Because they sent him on a blitz. They blitzed him a ton, and he was 100% the QB spy as well. The SEC, when you have Jaden Daniels, you have Milroe, you have Milton, right? All of these guys who can run in the SEC, like they needed him to do that, and he did a really, really good job with it consistently all year long. And so yeah. They'll probably play Oladapo most against run heavy and dual threat. Yeah. Morgan Burnett comp for Oladapo. Interesting. Yeah, this is the thing. Yeah, Anthony Johnson making that transition from corner and slot corner to safety is yes. Cooper does have longer arms than Roquan, but that's interesting. Cooper the next Roquan. That'd be awesome if that were the case. This is a good point. Yeah, Williams and Bullard attached at the hip at camp. Boy, I hope so. Yes, please. Yes, please. I do. I think the more like you look at Evan Williams right, the more you, I think, are pretty enthralled with Green Bay going, yeah, we need to move up for this guy. Just the way he plays, his versatility as well. Like there's a lot to like there. And speaking of those two being attached at the hip, we'll talk about Bullard a little bit. I know his is obviously the most recent film room that's been on the channel, not named Jacob Monk, which came out today. But Javon Bullard is versatile. He's tough. He's a playmaker, and he's super assignment oriented in the fact that he's picking up crossers. Right, he knows. Okay, I'm in the split field safety. I need to be looking perimeter first, where the quarterback follow the quarterback's eyes, come back to the middle. Right, there's a play like he did that. I forget who it was against now, but he's got eyes on the go route on the boundary. Gets his eyes there when the quarterback's eyes there. Quarterback starts to drift his eyes back to the middle of the field. He's transitioning really well. He's getting to his spot there to just take that away as well. He's taking away so many throws. He's closing windows. He plays quick, right? He attacks well on crossers, right? The speed that he has to drive on those crossing routes, really impressive there. The click close ability, the tackling ability, the ability to kind of be an enforcer even at 5'10", 198. Like there is so much to like about Bullard, and the way I'm talking about him, I think reinforces the point that where Joseph was like, is he your favorite pick? He is. I think his just how he can and the way he plays in the slot too, right? And the way he comes downhill to defend the run, where he's playing with good leverage against the run, right? Whether it be in the slot, whether it be flying downhill from safety, like he is in good position almost all the time. And when you have a player like that, that should excite you, because it's not like, oh, we're not confident in his ability right now. We need to see him reach his ceiling. And it's more like, okay, well, no, this guy is like, understands all of the finer points of what this position and what, playing in the secondary demands, that like, wherever you need him, right? If Green Bay is going to be in split field a little bit, like you can trust him on one half of the field with McKinney on the other half. If you want him to kind of be a strong safety, I know he's not the biggest, but like he sticks his nose in the run game. He plays with good leverage there. Like he's going to be in the right run fit. You want him in the slot. I think he's got a lot of quicks. He's got the speed and he's got physicality to play there, right? He can blitz. He can tackle. Like he can do a lot of that for you too. That type of player is the player I just really, really like. And wasn't sure Bullard was going to get picked by Green Bay. I was concerned that the Eagles were going to pick him in the second round. They didn't. Really happy he's here. Really, really happy he's here. So yeah. Evan Williams has insane lateral quicks with a 407 short shuttle. Yeah, he does. And then, you look at Bullard with 397. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, his only real issue flipping the hips with ease. Other than that, he's a stud at strong safety. 4.6 speed is fine there. Yeah, 4.55 at the pro day. That's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, Williams is, yeah, there are times where when he flips the hips, the balance issues come out a little bit, but another guy who's just really good at being in position when he needs to be. And having two of those guys in the same draft class is a big deal. So it is a 3.97, not a 3.87. 3.87, I think that would be the best. I'm pretty sure. So, let's see. Joseph says, I think Pete Darty asked Halfley about Viper, which Jeff answered in an evasive way, as if keeping a secret, though he did mention the big nickel position. That's probably more Oladapo. Yeah, being big nickel, that's probably him, because he has experience there, right? Oladapo has played nickel, and he's done it at a pretty good level, like to the point where I think he's, he looks comfortable one-on-one coverage with the tight ends at the Senior Bowl. Like that's, with more of these tight ends being, flexed out in the slot, like that's going to be a big part of, something where the defense is going to have somebody to take that away. Oladapo can be that guy. So, yeah, 100%. Mark Sawyer, what's going on? Says Evan Williams always seems to be around the ball. He does. And him and Bullard both really are just guys where you feel like they're in position almost all the time. Respect Orange, it says Bullard might have the most potential of the rookies. Yeah, he plays the right. He plays the way that you want to see defensive players play. And and that excites me a lot. So, issue with Williams, the size or lack thereof. Yeah, I think him and Bullard both are kind of guys where you're like, the size, but boy, they just are just good players that you like to see. And I know I mentioned Williams a little bit. We were talking about versatile safeties pre-draft. Bullard and Oladapo came up a little bit, but Evan Williams definitely did as well. So, yeah, Jim Nagy is a big fan of Williams, and I know he talked him up a lot during and post Senior Bowl. So Hundley had a 3.98. Wow, that's crazy. Does Evan Williams remind you of Micah Hyde? Maybe a little bit. I think. Yeah, I mean, I think Hyde, I would trust more in the slot than Williams. I think if you put Bullard and Williams together, I think you can kind of build a Micah Hyde like that. Evan and Bullard are both very smart, no doubt about that. Yeah, so Bullard, big fan of how he plays. And that's why he's, I would say, my favorite pick, right, in the draft for the Green Bay Packers, that is, right? So, yeah, Marshon Lloyd. Really quick talk about him. I know his videos on the channel as well, so I've gotten a lot of thoughts on him already. But, man, I mean, there's so much to like with Lloyd in terms of the big playability, right? The ability to stay patient, let blocks set up. He has the flashes of that, right? You know, pressing the line of scrimmage with the position, with sort of the square shoulders and everything to draw linebackers in, right? And have that explosiveness, that burst to attack a crease that's opening. And when you can manipulate linebackers like that, when you can be patient and set up blocks like that, you're going to be an effective running back at the NFL level. Combine that with the burst, combine that with the upside of as a pass catcher, right? Someone mentioned the limited tread on the tires. I mean, yeah, a little bit of lightning to the thunder of Josh Jacobs, but both guys run tough. Both guys have pretty good burst and can catch the football. Lloyd's pass protection is not the best. He kind of likes to throw shoulders rather than, stay square and engage. That's something that will have to be ironed out. But, man, as long as he can clean up the ball security, Lloyd's going to be a factor in year one. So, is Lloyd's 10-yard split at the combine a little slower? Yeah, 100%. But I will say the fact that what you see here, I think, is a really good example of, like, okay, running back, when you see him sit from 10-yard split, 10 to 20, he's clearly, got a good flying 10, you could call it, in the 10 to 20 area, or an acceleration 10. Some people call that, I think, as well, where it's like his 10-yard split's not great, but you see his 20 get better, and then you see the 40 get better, to where I'm looking at this and going, okay, Lloyd just isn't comfortable as much getting out of a starting block, which he's never going to be in the NFL. He's never in a starting block, right? He's not, down running track. He is going to have his feet moving already. And I think the burst in 10, 20 yards is exceptional, where the point where the 10-yard split doesn't match for me when it comes to testing versus film. And I think that is truly a casualty of, having guys set up in track starting blocks for, in that track starting position for a 40, right? Like we don't need it. We don't need it. So, from combine or pro day, if he did a pro day, it would be updated here. This is whatever the most recent is for him. If he did stuff at the pro day, it would be included here. So it's the most recent, whatever it was from. I think the combine is the 40 was the combine, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I think all of this would have been combine related because he didn't do agilities, which you might have just skipped to the combine to go to the pro day, right? I assume this is all combine, but if it is pro day, it's updated, whatever the latest numbers are. So, okay. Gonna catch up here really quick. Coach Ewan said, I think we'll run 3 safeties, McKinney, Bullard, and Williams, or Oladapo, depending who's in the slot. It's very easy to see that Nixon could lose his job in the slot to one of these guys because there's, a ton of talent there. Like, Nixon could just be a returner, and that's okay. And yeah, I mean, we bring it up right here. Do you think Bullard win the slot corner job? I think if they want him to be there, I think he can win it. Yeah. If they want to be a safety and not be a slot corner, that's totally fine. I think he can get one of the starting spots there, right opposite McKinney. I think wherever they want him to play, I think Bullard can win the starting job. So, either way. Joseph giving high praise to Evan Williams here as well. And Bullard I agree. Bullard did well in the slot. I think he played a little better. PFF would say he played a little better at safety than the slot. Right, obviously playing more snaps at safety than slot in 23. Obviously, was more in the slot in 22. But he plays well there. He played really well at both, honestly. Yeah, I think Mark, it's slower than expected for sure. Right, I think his burst within 10, 15 yards is tremendous when you turn the tape on. The way he can go 0 to 100 in a few steps, like. I don't think the 10-yard split is indicative of how he plays, truthfully. Wes Hod talks about Evan Williams reminding him of Hyde. That's interesting. Lloyd might weigh more than Jacobs. Great 1-2 punch. It's possible. I forget what Jacobs was in terms of what he was. Let me see. Let's go back in time. Now Jacobs obviously might not play at this weight anymore, but I'm interested to see what he came in at. Okay, so if we're going off of purely combine and pre 29, which is a while ago, right? Pre 2019 NFL draft, then they're the same at 220. I don't know if Jacobs is playing at 220. I don't know if he said in a presser what he's playing at. But very similar in terms of how they play. Has long speed to take the top off for sure. Heartbeat of that deep. Yeah, Bullard was tremendous for that defense. True momentum player, not stop start. Yeah. Yeah, let him get up to speed. Crush the combine. Aaron Jones did have an elite 10-yard split. This is true. He gets the top speed very I mentioned that. I think 3 to 4 steps. He is flying. Yeah, pro day numbers definitely suspect. I'm pretty sure those are from the combine though. Oh yeah. Yeah. Same 10-yard split. Yeah. I Jacobs to me was never like the true burner, right? And obviously runs a 4.64 in the 40, but like I do think that Lloyd plays with more burst. Jacobs plays with better instincts arriving at contact. But, I mean, 2 tough runners with a ton of contact balance. So, yeah, I like it. Yeah, I wasn't going to didn't want to take away from the Lloyd report. Nixon's probably just a dime. Yeah, I feel like if they're going to have Bullard play nickel, he's winning the job. So, and I prefer Williams holding down strong safety, Bullard at nickel. Yeah, I'm fine with that as well. Yeah, right? Right? That bench number for Lloyd is insane. Dude's coming to work, which is exciting, no doubt. Brian Claycomb, hello, how you doing? Says, I see McKinney, Bullard, Jair, Stokes, Valentine, full-time players with Nixon, Oladapo, Williams, third linebackers rotational. Yeah, I think it just depends, Brian, on right those 4, but also when you're not in base, which will probably be most of the time, considering how the league is going. you will have to have one of those guys you mentioned, after those first four as a nickel. So I think, the idea of having Oladapo or Williams play safety while Bullard plays nickel makes sense. And then you have McKinney, and then you have, Jair and whoever wins the Stokes-Valentine battle. That would be the case. But yeah, in base, sure. Yeah, McKinney, Bullard, Jair, and then the Stokes-Valentine winner. But you're going to be a nickel a lot. So, yeah, no doubt. Lloyd is also powerful for sure. Yeah, he can drop the pads. I think he needs work at the timing and reducing the surface area rather than trying to just run behind the pads all the time. But he does have good stiff arm timing. Lloyd does. He really good stiff arm timing against defenders, and I think Jacobs does that as well. But how Jacobs arrives at contact and how he instinctively plays through it sometimes, I think is a little more refined, which makes sense, right? Jacobs has been playing in the league a lot longer. But I do think Lloyd can learn from Jacobs in that aspect. So how would you compare Lloyd and Jalen Wright? I mentioned this a little earlier where Jalen Wright just might be the better fit for the wide zone stuff, right? Where he can, instinctively pick the spot and they tell him what spot he's going to be able to pick and he can just let him tee off. Right. And I think maybe he's got maybe a little more processing instincts, but I do think Lloyd has it as well, that maybe just Green Bay wanted, this more bowling ball build to go with Jacobs and, have a guy who felt more comfortable in the inside zone and the power concepts that we might see Green Bay make a little bit of a shift to because of the Jacobs signing. So I think that played into it a little bit. But I do think, I think Wright was still a really talented back. But I do think, Wright seemed to find his stride a lot more on the perimeter. Lloyd can do it too. But I think Lloyd has some pretty good processing instincts in terms of setting up blocks, where I think Wright is kind of just like a point and go type of guy. So I think I graded Wright higher, but I think the fit. I think the fit you could argue with Lloyd makes a little more sense. Brian Maffey, what's going on, my guy? How you doing? I assume, Brian, you're getting into the 2025 draft and probably have a giant list already, but good to see you. Lloyd fumbles because his biceps are titanium and slippery. I love that. I think Marshawn Lynch bounced like 28. Lloyd really close to that. Yeah. Coach says, I agree with that scouting on Jacobs. Great contact balance. Yeah, I think it's just instinctively how he arrives. Like, there are guys who run behind their pads really well and that they take that bowling ball role really seriously, but there are other guys who just, instinctively know when to get skinny, instinctively know, how to position themselves for contact a little bit better, right? And that comes with experience for sure. And I think, yeah, I agree. Lloyd will learn a bunch for sure. Yeah, nickel is practically base, no doubt. Yeah, I think that's so. There you go. Brian, I hope so. I think he'd be. I think he would be excellent there, but I think he can play safety too. So it's wherever they want him. Let him be a starter from day one. So, yeah, Lloyd has a good stiff arm too. Yep, I agree with this too. Got to find a way. So, yeah, Brian, I think I'm on it. Brian, I think you had a good comment that I didn't respond to on the video where it's like Mike Wall said this too, where it's like he is still a project, but you see the vision to the point where, okay, he's going to start here or here at some point down the road with the development that's necessary. So, yeah, I like it. I think it's good. I think getting aggressive to move up for him makes sense that late. Would have loved to still have Sundell on this team at this point, though. To not get him and him going to undrafted free agency and someone else scooping him up hurts for sure. But he's teetering on that 300, I think. Maybe he was under 300. The point where Green Bay maybe just didn't want, that size and they wanted more size at the position. Maybe they thought he was a center only with Sundell. Maybe that's the case. And they didn't want that. So they didn't believe in versatility there with him. So
Yeah, I'm on the Monk train. Lloyd does have a lot of tools for sure, and they have been moving away from it. So I think that's where, maybe that's where they saw Lloyd. They put him, in a tier above the others that were still available. So Manuel Wilson is a hammer also. Yeah, I think Wilson does a nice job, I think, pressing to the line of scrimmage a lot, and he can bounce those runs out with enough burst, enough speed. Yeah, I think Dylan, they signed him for that minimum to bring him back, but like I don't think he has like any guarantee to be on the roster. Once September rolls around, so we'll see. I think this is a good point, Airs Joy. This is really well said too. Plays with better momentum with his power. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think Manuel Wilson might be able to win that. Yeah, Mark, this is a good point too. How much character plays a role? We just don't have that info with a lot of guys, and that makes it tougher for sure. For sure. Don't limit Bullard. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Mark. I don't know, Mark, if you were on stream when this happened. I don't know if you were on like PTAs with the fellas there. But man, when San Francisco moved up, I knew it. I knew it immediately. I knew it was Pooney, and I was ticked. I was not pleased because I knew San Francisco would do that. Freaking knew that they were going to do that once they traded up. So annoying. I think. Okay, you were. Okay, yeah. Terrible time. I think Sundell ended up in Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it was Cleveland. So, famous now, Evan Williams' dad came at me on Twitter. Oh, boy. Not posting any Evan Williams clips. I did find one where Lloyd stiff-armed Williams into the dirt. Maybe I won't share that clip now. But they're teammates now, so, Sundell was 301. So, yeah, maybe they thought it was center only for him. It's possible. I know Bakhtiari might have even been 299 when he was drafted, but maybe they just didn't believe. Maybe they just didn't like what they saw from Sundell. I don't know. Oh, yeah, Greenfield. I think he, for me, was the only thing with Greenfield was sustaining blocks. But, yeah, I think he had a lot of potential, too. I think he was kind of more in that Glover tier, maybe a tier ahead of Glover in terms of like, okay, he's still a developmental project, but there's a lot to like. Oh, the Mustafa pick. Yeah, San Francisco did a lot of that nonsense. It was annoying. San Francisco and Detroit were just super annoying when they were drafting. Yeah, I think Williams offers more, right? Versatility-wise. I think Mustafa's run, chase, hit, strong safety, where Williams can do a little bit of everything. Oh, you did post that? Well, I don't know what he can comment, I guess, from that. He's kind of have to take that one and be like, yep, didn't get him there. But yeah. So, quick on Tyron Hopper, right? I think we've talked about how good he is in coverage, which I think kind of speaks for itself. I think it's just, the way he can play with speed, as a scrape guy, as kind of like, all right, I need to, scrape around this guy, kind of attacking, slanting right to attack against the run, where I think, he does a good job filling in that regard. But I think the flashes in the box have to be more consistent. He has to tackle a little bit better, right? He's getting, guys are shrugging off of him, at contact. So I think there's work to be done, but maybe, the coverage is what they're hanging their hat on. For him to develop, but there are just times where he looks a little bit clunky, whether it be flowing downhill, whether it be in transition. So interested to see how that works out for Hopper. Probably the most interested in just seeing, what Green Bay's vision is there, because I feel like I have a better picture for everyone else, not as much for Hopper. So. Okay. Williams was highly valued by football people. Yeah, extremely smart. I mean, it's clear that Green Bay got aggressive and probably because a lot of teams were interested. Yeah, Mustafa. It feels like Mustafa's in a role where it was extremely defined, where it was like, is he versatile? A little bit less so than a lot of the guys they picked, honestly. So Hopper numbers are unofficial from Pro Day, and they're different. Interesting. That's fine. I think when you watch the agility on film a little bit, I think you kind of see it, honestly. But the instincts and coverage are pretty solid. He does have that explosion. I think when he's flowing downhill and when he's kept clean, you can kind of see that. You can kind of see that with some of the range that he plays with, right, with that explosion that he plays. So I see the vision a little bit, but not as much as other guys. So yeah, he definitely drags down. He's not as much of a, initiate. So Goody said they had the Hopper and the 4.5s. That's interesting. Boy, that's really fast if that's the case. There are times where maybe he looks that fast, but feels a little more sparing. So that's interesting. Yeah, blitzer and coverage guy, that could be the case. Coach, I feel like that might be how they do, right? This is our former, safety in high school where it's more coverage. I think it's possible that the backup Mike is going to be McDuffie. And that's what we're rolling with, perhaps. But we'll see. Green Bay may be a little predictable, so some teams will jump us. Yeah, that's possible. It's possible. I think it was. It felt like with the Pooney selection that he was kind of the last lineman on the board where you're like, yes, I'm really excited about that guy. And San Francisco not having done anything at offensive line yet in that draft was kind of like, we got to go make this happen as well. So it was maybe a combination of both. But, yeah. Hopper checks all the boxes, versatility, athleticism. Yeah, Senior Bowl for sure. All SEC is a big deal. And, yeah, I mean, they really like team captains for sure. And he does. This is a good point right here as well where, better 22 than 23. Green Bay kind of take a look at that and say, okay, how did that go? Right, we'll kind of be talking about that with another guy. Two others, actually, probably, now that I think about it, where it's kind of like they see the vision maybe more in 2022. Yeah, I think that's a great point. So, yeah, agility times are not the best. Dan Hildebrand, what's going on? How you doing? Did they interview with him? They did. They did have a top 30 with him. So they must have really liked how that meeting went. So, man, McDuffie playing Sam at that size, I guess. I mean, they're going to be in nickel most of the time anyway. But yeah, when they're in base, I'm interested to see how the linebackers are lined up. We talked about Lloyd. We've kind of talked about Evan Williams, right? Quite a bit already. But I do think he is everything that we've mentioned to this point, right? Like versatile, tough, instinctive, good coverage player, but he's good blitzer. He's got enough versatility to wear multiple hats. If they would prefer him to do that, I think he is just a guy who, like we've talked about. I don't think I have to really go through the pitch, really. I think we've kind of talked enough where he's in the right spot so much where he's making good plays. He's a little bit of, I know Brian knows what I'm talking about here, where he kind of bites on play action a little bit too much. I think Bullard can be the same way where he gets his eyes a little bit lost on what's happening with the mesh point on a lot of play action, read option stuff, right? So I think Williams does that a little bit as well. But I do see, coverage instincts, coverage responsibilities are taken care of. He's flying downhill and make plays. He can play the enforcer role a little bit as well. Where I think he's just all around strong player that you can get in the fourth round. Like it's impressive. It is. It will be interesting to see. Yeah, I'm not surprised, I guess, that they took Hopper over Wilson. It was probably clear to Green Bay that Wilson, with all the injuries and lacking an ACL in one of his knees, that they were probably kind of like, I don't think we want to go down that road. This Cedric Gray one was a little more interesting, right? Was Cedric Gray fourth? Maybe he was. Now I need to know. have to see because I wasn't. Now I'm like losing my mind. I have to remember. Did Gray? Yeah, he went 106. That's wild. Yeah, him over Gray is for sure shocking. Yeah, I definitely had Gray higher as well. Like that's something that they must have liked him a lot. So that was probably the most surprising, right? So yeah, Tyrese Knight's a good one too. Yeah, that would have been a nice one. Having Edgerrin Cooper and Tyrese Knight would have been a fun combo. Have a great night, Mark. Appreciate you. Tell folks to hit that like button. Definitely helps. Definitely helps. So, wasn't fully convinced at first. I assume you mean for Hopper, but then I saw Senior Bowl reps shutting guys down with good footwork. Yeah, I assume. Yeah, I mean, in coverage, I think he's going to provide a lot. So he will provide a lot. Williams extremely good at blitzing. Yeah, they didn't use him a lot that way, but you could. There were definite times where he's lining up at the line of scrimmage or in the slot, and they're letting him attack. And if they want to do that, oh, you mean for Williams? Gotcha. Yeah, no, I think Williams has really grown on me even more as I watch 12 games of his rather than like 4. Good player. So. Yeah, he definitely bites, and I think so does Bullard a little bit. Maybe a little bit less. Bullard does a little bit less than Williams, but yeah. Yeah, 4th, Gray was on the board. Yeah, I think Gray is as a defined position at linebacker for sure. So, yeah, I know Brian was a big Tyrese Knight guy. Yeah, Goody was at the Missouri Pro Day. That's true. There was a lot of talk about, Darius Robinson, Rakestraw, but probably there to, obviously take a look at those guys, but clearly Hopper got his attention, so Gray was off their board. Makes sense. Maybe I should look at the Fresno stuff with him too. I just there's so many games of Oregon where they're playing, because of how good the competition was in the Pac-12. I feel like it just gives you a good picture. But maybe I'll take a look at him at Fresno as well. So maybe I should. I may have to pivot and leave that film room for later in the week then. Maybe I will. So, Senior Bowl performance like counts double. Yeah, I mean, we got to start, and we probably should have already been doing so, but like the Senior Bowl is everything. It clearly mattered to Green Bay a lot this time around, and it probably will again. So, and it did a lot for Ballard, and it has a lot for Chris Ballard in Indy as well. A lot of the Senior Bowl guys they go out and get too. So, I mean, Latu was there, right? Pittman was a big one that they really liked down the Senior Bowl. So, the Senior Bowl is a big deal for this team, no doubt about it. Eric Sullivan was also at Mizzou Pro Day. They were all in. Yeah, I mean, at the Pro Day, comes in for a visit. Like, that interest was written on the wall. It was written on a billboard almost, right? So, That's good to hear. It's good to hear. Oh, yeah, I know. Practices for sure. Yep. There's no doubt. I feel like with Williams at the Senior Bowl was just kind of like, yep, in the right spot. Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, I think it was across the board was really, really solid. So, commanding presence in rookie training camp is good to hear from Williams as well. All right. So, as we move on, go to Jacob Monk here, but I think with him, we've kind of talked about it, right? Film room already dropped for those who have not seen it yet. It's on the channel talking about Monk. So, upside with starter projection, right? I think when you talk about starter projection, talked about it a little earlier. It was before Brian was here, but Brian, you comment, or maybe it wasn't. No, it was. You just arrived and you were talking about I was on the Monk train. Yeah, I think with how Mike Wall described it was really good. You see how well he plays at center right now. You see the flashes of good play at right guard. Hand placement. We talked about it with Jordan Morgan already. Like, that has to get better. Once it gets better, possibilities could be endless. So I mean, the quicks, I think the instincts and the awareness and pass pro at center is really good, right? You look at 6'3", 308, very Packersy, maybe a little bit less, but 6'3", with the 6'3", but like overall good athlete, around, well-rounded, at least when you're talking about centers. But I think that he, with how well he can position himself at contact, it's just now it's position the hands. Footwork can be a little bit better. I think you can clean that up a little, but I think the footwork has done a lot of work for him in terms of recovery ability. Hands. Shoot the hands early in reps, and you're going to succeed. And I think Monk is a perfect example of, let's do that. We'll get that, drilled into you early, maybe in rookie camp as well as training camp as we get down that road, to the point where once he's doing that and he's getting guys off balance early and he's striking well right early in the rep, when he does that, he is extremely effective in pass pro. It's just, don't be the second guy to strike. Don't be bear hugging. Don't be receiving contact. Right? When he gets that fixed, look out. And he gets nasty too. He pass pro and in the run game, you'll see him, dump guys on the ground. Adding that level of nastiness with him, and Morgan has done it a few times as well, and I mentioned this earlier, but like that is a welcome addition for sure. So I feel like after 2021 debacle, Packers really focused more on the Senior Bowl, versatility, and athleticism. Yeah, I think 2021 was very much okay, this guy's a lot of speed, right? He can run. Myers, we like the fit, right? I think that made sense, where they were like, this fit for what we want to do offensively makes sense with Myers, and then they went Amari Rodgers, which was tough, but maybe they thought of him as an offensive weapon. They've something has clicked. Something has clicked for this front office after 2021. And it's great to see. But yeah, I think it's impressive to see how Goody and this their scouting staff and everybody has really turned the corner with this. And that's why I think it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, it's hard not to trust this draft and trust Goody's process with it. So see you soon, Brian. Definitely send me that 2025 list. Would love it. Yeah, he's got all the Packers colors there. No red. No red. What's going on, AFAM? How you doing? Monk definitely has that nastiness in him. There's no doubt. Yeah. The technique needs it fixed, and that's where we, get him in the building, right? This is the type of player that you want to see go to an organization that develops offensive linemen well, and I think Green Bay, the track record with Rasheed Walker, should tell you that they have that should be, given the respect that they've earned in terms of how they do this and how they get guys on the developmental track. And I think Monk would be another shining example if he becomes a starter at some point. I think so, yeah. I think the quicks are really good. Yeah, he just needs to initiate 100%. That's he needs to play that way. Yeah, Morgan does it as well. Morgan definitely has wider hands, and he's on the receiving end of striking second, very much so. So, oh yeah, I was pretty low on Jaden Hicks, I think, relative to consensus. I know there were some people that had him at safety 1. Boy, unless you're watching the Wisconsin game only, I don't know how you have Jaden Hicks at safety 1. Now, Hicks went to the Chiefs, which, they've done great work with their DBs. He could be really good. So we'll see. But need to be careful moving all of these O-line pieces. Love seems to get happy feet. Sometimes leaves the pocket too early. I think he was definitely dropping his eyes a lot early in the season. He definitely likes to keep his feet moving, which I like. Right? You see him hopping a lot more. That just gives you the ability to reset your feet, wherever you need to. There are so many guys, and one of them is in this next draft class whose feet stop. And if your feet are stopping, right, and they're firmly planted on the ground and they're just not moving at all, I feel like that's reflective of you not processing information quickly, Whereas I think if you have the feet moving a lot, I think it's showing that you're like getting to a lot of options. You're reading the field well, and you're going to be in a good position to flip your hips, set your feet when you need to. So, but I do think there are times where he would definitely drop, and he likes to play outside the pocket, right? He likes to play that on the move, off platform game, and that's I think part of Love's development that was necessary in the league was like working on the structured throws, right? Layering throws, making second, third read on plays. So that was a lot of, and he's still getting there. And I think more reps in game is going to get him there. So yeah, I didn't either. I thought he was a step slow at a lot of places. He felt a little out of control when he was moving. So yeah, I don't know. I just didn't love it. But takeoff as abandoned perfectly. Yeah. Well, that's AFM. That's part of him like playing like 12, unfortunately, and playing like a lot of these guys who love to get to second reaction stuff and love to play, on the move and off platform, which Love is really, really good at. But yeah, it's part of the developmental process, staying in the pocket more and playing within the structure just a little bit more. So, Mark Sawyer, what do you think of Myers Ryan as being sufficient to unleash 2020? I think they're going to be able to unleash 2022 Jacobs. I think 2023 Jacobs was, again, coming off of contract talks, right, was in that had stalled a bunch. He was late to camp. He was late to, joining the team. So he wasn't under the same routine that he was the year prior. And so I think now full offseason program, right? He's locked into Green Bay at this point, right? There's no contract dispute stuff. I think that's going to be even more crucial to unleashing 2022 Jacobs. But I think Myers, taking a step and whoever's playing right guard, I think it could be different, Morgan, Monk, but if it's Ryan, I think there's going to be enough. I think they're going to have enough to unleash Jacobs because Jacobs does so much well in terms of his processing skill set, his ability to shrug off tackles, right? How he plays through contact, his instincts, the bursts, his creativity to string together cuts. Like there's so much that Jacobs does well that even if they get solid play, right, and they, it doesn't have to be franchise changing, right? Huge wins over replacement types at right guard and center. If they can just get competency, I think Jacobs will be unleashed. So yeah, there was just so much going on with Jacobs and the Raiders that it just felt like nothing was routine. Nothing what felt like in place. So I think coming here for Josh Jacobs is going to be huge. So screen game could be screen game could be nasty with, Jenkins bouncing back, and playing what we know he can play at. The O-line, they're not the nastiest group in the world, but they don't have to be a group that gets pushed around. Right. And I think Monk and Morgan bringing a little bit of that, nastiness is a big deal. So yeah, I think composure's a good, AFM. I think composed is good. Yeah. The Niners, he kind of got, aggressive, right? Wanting to make that big play. He can big game hunt. Love can big game hunt. That's something that Drake May is going to have to learn as well in New England, where sometimes you just got to take what's there or scramble or live another down. It was a good lesson. It was a good lesson for him. Honestly, I think that throw against the Niners is a big lesson that I think he's going to take with him. And that's a huge deal. It's huge. So yeah, it was a very Favre throw. The Favre came back that we saw earlier in the season right then. So yeah, I think Ryan can move. Yeah, he can move people around. But yeah, Ryan gets, I think, flat-footed at times where he's like looking for a certain thing and he's ready to anchor and he's ready to set position where he needs to stay on his feet until he knows. Right? You have to be anticipating that rushers are going to throw a lot of things at you. And so that's something that needs to improve with him for sure. So, yep, anything to live another day, no doubt. Doug Pointer, what's going on, says lesson he should have learned the first few times he tried to throw it. It's true. It's true. But in a moment like that, right? And I think, when you're, and again, everything should be learning, and he should have learned it the first few times, I understand. But when you're trying to make something out of nothing, and everything just feels off and out of place, and you're just like, all right, I need to try to do too much, right? In a season where you felt like early in the year you were behind the 8 ball a bunch and you were trying to do too much, like it felt like you were just trying to do something to give a spark to anything. That's fine. That's totally understandable, right? Like, he's like, well, we can't do anything. I need to try and do something heroic, because around me and including me, this offense it's just been way underperforming. Once you get to a game that matters and you get to a moment that requires, right, you're on a hot streak, everything's clicking, you don't have to be the hero in this moment. I think that's what's going to be more resonant with Love, is I didn't need to be the hero in that moment. Where early in the year it felt like he did need to, because the offense just was not clicking at all. So that's, I think, the difference for me in that moment. But I think it'll be a big one for him. So, yeah, I think towing the line. I think towing the line between Favre and Rodgers is a good thing. Yeah. Rodgers threw it away a lot, no doubt, and took sacks a lot. If he can toe the line between the two, love where we're at. So you got to let me know how to pronounce your name so I can do it justice. But I appreciate you hanging out. I know you're definitely do the chat, but we're thrilled to have you here, because you're offering a lot, and I'm thrilled to the conversation here. But says predict the O-line combo: Morgan at left tackle, Jenkins left guard, Myers at center, Monk at right guard, and Tom at right tackle. 2 rookies starting would be wild. It would be wild. But I'm here for it if that is the case. So I don't know if it's a CBD gummy, but I think our O-line will be fine. I think I'm there with you in terms of, I think the O-line will be okay. I think they added enough depth and competition that they should get the best out of it. So, okay. By the way, nice Elton Jenkins. Ooh, yeah, Brandon Thorne put stuff on Jenkins. I saw a highlight of him punishing jumpers against the Rams, where I think he's going to find it next year, which is exciting. So, heck yeah, that's a good deal. Raj had never had the balls hang on to the ball for the screen game. Yeah, he always get frustrated, wouldn't he? He'd always be like, man, this isn't developing quick enough for me. He was definitely like that. Doug, I can take the mistake if he goes 21 touchdowns, 1 pick. I'm not concerned. Right? Yeah, that's fair. I get being frustrated when it's like second pick, third pick of a game. But I do think, like, the way he was playing down the stretch, it was kind of like he just didn't need to be the hero. The offense was clicking, like, just live another down in that moment. And he just the Favre in him kind of came back a little bit. I could just call me Remy. Sounds good. Time for round 6-7. Okay. Well, we got to get to Oladapo first. So that's still round 5. But Oladapo, I mean, he's instinctive as well. I don't think he's as good in transition as guys like Bullard and Williams are. Big, plays physical, can be that enforcer. I have dime linebacker question mark because I know Jim Nagy mentioned it. But at 216, little light there. But, I think that the way that he can create he can be kind of a matchup eraser at times, I think is a good player to have in your room. Can blitz, can play in the box, can be that enforcer, but also can hang in coverage where he's covering tight ends at a high level, right? He was doing so at the Senior Bowl. I think PFF has him, as a really good coverage player, which I think is fair. I think he's got the instincts for it. He processes well. I don't think he's the top tier athlete necessarily, like I already mentioned, in transition with top speed and stuff. But if you can be ahead of the curve in terms of processing, if you have the requisite or sufficient athleticism, that combination can play, right? if you have all the speed in the world, but you can't process worth a darn, that's not going to help. So the fact that Oladapo has the coverage instincts is a good deal for him. So I think everybody was excited about this pick. Everybody felt like, it was a steal. And you mentioned, Remy, you mentioned best tackling safety. He's a darn good tackler. I think him and Mustafa are probably the two guys that I'd be like, yeah, those are phenomenal tacklers. I mean, what's there to say? I mean, I think he is, I think I had him at safety 4 in the draft, I believe. And he goes this late, like, heck yeah, absolutely. So, Walker and Kraft, Muskie, technically 2 rooks. Well, Walker was a second-year guy, technically. Right, he was a 2022 7th rounder. But I mean, yeah, it was, first year starting, I guess, right? So, kind of a pseudo-rookie second-year guy, but also, yeah, Kraft and Musgrave flipping off. I mean, it's possible, stay younger and younger for your starting offense. Not impossible, but if they, maybe that's part of the approach that they're like, we can never play rookies, but, they're starting to kind of change the tune on that a little bit, which is good. But, yeah, it's possible, Cody. That's true. That is true. With all these strong safeties, you want to see more forced fumbles. How many fumbles did Cooper? I can go find that, or somebody else can. It's fun, Mark. It's a good point that you bring up. I was like, man, he shouldn't be here. He shouldn't be here. I'm going to pick him in round 7. We picked him so much, right? So, but I do remember, I don't know what stream I said it in, Mark, but I was like, now with the bump Oladapo got, I think in PFF's board, it was kind of like, you're probably going to have to take him in round 5. There it is. Round 5, 169. That's where I think that's the last place I think you could take him. So, Airs Joy, I'll find those numbers. I'll put them in the comments after the stream. Don't want to sit here typing on stream for y'all. But yeah. Musgrave going to be elite tight end deep threat. Yeah, him and Watson. Yeah, him, Watson. And Reed should be a part of this. Melton obviously got to be a part of it last year as well. But they're going to take shots down the field every game, no doubt. Lunch pail guy. Yeah. Viper, dime linebacker, big Nick. Yeah, whatever you want him to be. He's going to take care of those roles, I think, really well. Yeah, combine injury. Yeah, that could be. Yeah, and not. And maybe teams also seeing the size and going like, maybe his role is defined. And Green Bay's like, I don't know what you're talking about. That's fine. He can define. You want to let him drop because of that? Sure, we'll take him. Like, no problem there. But yeah, really nice one there for Oladapo. Let's go to Glover. I think he's powerful, right? He's clearly, with the momentum he can generate off the ball, he can displace defenders, uproot them. He's got enough power and anchor in pass pro. He's balanced in pass pro, but I think there's so much that I think needs improvement. I have a little graphic here. I'm not going to put it up on the screen just because I can, but I'm going to read from it quick what I had from him. He's a powerful offensive tackle looking to bury guys in both phases. Good balance and positioning of contact and pass pro. He's got active hands to reset, which I definitely remember. He flashes good extension. He's got enough size and power to anchor. He flashes quicks and agility in the run game. He does head dip at contact quite a bit, and that can get him into trouble. He loses around the arc a little bit because I think he's a little more heavy-footed in his set to where, you need to unlock that flexibility, work with him on the press or on the sets. I mean, a little bit more and focus on, unlocking that level of quickness and flexibility and working to mirror, right? I think because he struggles to recover a little bit as well. But I mean, at 6'6", 317, yeah, 34 3/4 inch arm, that's really good. But yeah, I think run game, he kind of launches himself a little bit in the run game. He needs to play more composed and balanced in that regard. But he's a project for sure, but there's, there are traits there. There are tools to develop. Can Green Bay do it? That'll be a fun question to explore. Brian Claycomb asking, what is the Viper? Yeah, basically a hybrid linebacker safety position. Kind of a dime backer. Everybody has different names for a lot of positions, but yeah, this is essentially what we're looking at. Remy says low bench press, yeah, justified due to long arms. Yeah, that's definitely a thing that happens where guys have with longer arms having to fully extend to the bench. It's more strenuous. Yeah, because the bench isn't, I don't think, reflective of his power that he plays with. But I think there's stuff to work on. So there is definitely stuff to work on with Travis Glover. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay. So I think for me, Michael Pratt is the favorite for the backup job. I think accuracy, placement, touch on the football, easy velocity in the release. I know the release is a little funky a little bit. Do you project Glover to be a guard? Maybe. I know some people don't like having guys with longer arms at guard. I think it's possible they look at him there. But I think with that kind of size and that kind of length out there, I think they're probably going to try him at tackle first and then make that move into guard if they don't see the results they like, right? Obviously, he's gonna be competing with guys like Tenuta and Caleb Jones. So it's going to be more difficult, right? Maybe he's a practice squad guy in year one. I think that's very possible. I think they're going to try him at tackle first. I think it's worth trying him at tackle first. But I think a world where he plays guard is very possible. For me, Michael Pratt as well, really quick, love the mobility. Love the subtleties that he can play with within the pocket of where moving defenders, right? He does a nice job anticipating windows against zone. So I think, there are times where he forces the issue. He kind of locks on a little bit. But I think another guy where you look at 2022 versus 2023 with Michael Pratt, and you see the vision where you're like, okay, and I'm still surprised that Michael Pratt dropped to the 7th. I can't believe he wasn't picked in round 4 or higher, to be honest. I know his Senior Bowl wasn't great. He did battle a little bit of injury in 2023. I just feel like he's another guy where Green Bay just goes, yeah, we'll take the value of 2022 being better than 23, and we'll bet on 22. And just, I think could be a guy that's just locked into the backup quarterback role for a long time. Really excited for him. So Glover does have a nasty streak. There's no doubt. Yeah, when he unlocks that level of power, man, he can move anybody. So, love Pratt's deep ball. Yeah. I think they said the press conference Glover is a swing tackle. Yeah, I buy that. For sure. Why do you think that happened? Are you referencing the drop and play? Or are you talking Senior Bowl performance? Which is that? Just want to make sure I'm understanding what you mean by that. How many 2022 guys are we carrying on this roster? 2022. I mean, most of the class from 22. I don't know. A lot of them. Oh, why do you think Pratt fell? I don't know. I 2023 season where I thought they mentioned that he has, injury. The injury he kind of battled, I thought, and maybe just not being crisp during the Senior Bowl week maybe caused that. Very surprised. I don't know what else it could have been. Because I think in 2022, I think coming into summer of 23, it was kind of like, wow, Pratt's on the radar, like heavily. Like he should be, weekly watch. Like guys should be keeping tabs on all year. Like I'm just surprised. It could have been just again, and with with Pratt at the Senior Bowl, it was just kind of like it's tougher getting on the same page with receivers, right? That you're playing with for the first time, and that type of adjustment isn't easy. I know some of the guys made it look easier, right? Your Herberts, I think Baker did a pretty solid job. I know Hurts did well. Like but I don't know. It's just very strange. If teams were just banking on the inconsistent 2023 film and just being like, yeah, we just don't see it, it's very possible. I think with QBs, I think guys just they see it or they don't, right? And so that could be the case. Joseph, Packers possibly keeping 3 quarterbacks. Yeah, it's possible. I could see that unless Pratt learns the offense very quickly. Yeah, I think for sure. I think they should carry 3 QBs. I know that's not as fun. It's nice to have 2, give yourself some flexibility to with the 53 in other spots, but I would carry all 3. I would not let Pratt get to I think if you let him go to practice squad, he's going to get picked up. So I think you got to carry him. Yeah, I would. So, in terms of rookie starting, Monk and Morgan aren't typical. Both have tons of experience. Yeah, experience could matter for sure. 11 forced fumbles by strong safeties and linebackers. Evan had the most 4. Cooper had 3. Evan is a dog. Yeah. Yeah, Glover did pretty solid. I think he was another one where you look at improvement day over day, and I'm sure that Green Bay probably saw that and they go, yeah, I think the fact that he battled hard and he was able to hang and got better every day is a big deal. So yeah, I think again, Senior Bowl, big deal for this Packers front office. There's no doubt. Please don't give up on Clifford. I don't think they'll give up on Clifford. Yeah, I don't think they will, because Pratt being drafted in the 7th round doesn't guarantee him anything. So yeah, Glover's this year. Rasheed Walker. Yeah, very possible. Very possible. Where it's just right. It's a year of figuring out the position, understanding, right, working on the technique, and then to the point where you feel comfortable about him in 2025. Very possible. Finally, Kalen King. Another guy where 2022 was better than 23. Still thought he struggled in both games against Ohio State. Something to think about. But well worth a swing in the 7th. Plays physical, right, is a tackler. I think when you watch him, turn and run with guys, he does a good job cutting off the vertical routes, and he can get on, to the point where he's kind of almost playing, dominant technique, and he's kind of preventing, guys to stack him vertically, and he's making plays on the ball. When he can get his eyes around on the ball, he's doing a really tremendous job. And I think, I don't know if he gets spooked against Harrison and the guys at Ohio State. Harrison just kind of, did a nice job attacking outside hip, which Harrison does at a tremendous, rate. And where, King feels uncomfortable, he's turning, he's opening the gate early, right? He's having to, lean on trying to play physical, and then he's getting his feet stuck in transition, and he was just a little overwhelmed against Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think Ross Uglum mentioned it, talking about him playing the nickel, maybe, because of how physical he can play. And, when he gets hands-on and can mirror off the line, he does a pretty solid job. I don't know about that in transition. I think there are times where he looks good, times where he doesn't. So it's just a lot of consistency as well. But Kalen King, very interesting as a guy, could be a big-time steal if they can unlock the 2022 version of him. Brian says, Malaford preference to carry only 3 QBs in camp, meaning losing one to waivers. Yeah, I would just... So yeah, I think you just keep both of those guys on the developmental track would be is good. I think you have to carry 3 throughout the year, honestly. Remy says King improved his 40 at the pro day a lot. That's good. 4.52 probably means more lower 4.5, so he probably improved it truthfully by 4.05 of a second, which will work. I think this is true. Yeah, he got dusted quite a bit by guys that truthfully like are not good route runners, and he got dusted by him. So yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't great. King, maybe. I think Bullard probably has better ball skills than King, but King, when he's in good position, he makes plays on the ball for sure. So I like it. I think it's a good overall. Class is really solid. They attack needs, attacked value, but yeah, King, when he's on top, on top of his game, when he's playing well, ball skills and turning to find the ball and playing the ball with good timing at the catch point, it's all there for sure. So. But yeah, I would still lean Bullard. Yeah, I think the ball. Yeah, coach. I think the ball skills are there as well. So. Yeah. When he stacks on the receiver and he's like almost like, yeah, I'll just get into playing dominant technique at the catch point. Like that's, yeah. When he's in phase, he is playing really good ball, and I agree. Yeah, that's what made 2022 impressive. Against Utah, Ohio State, Auburn, right? He was doing all of that. So, yeah, I mean, if they can figure it out, I mean, who can say? Cornerback 6, Brian says, comes down to King versus Rochelle, was a standout on special teams. Yeah, special teams, if King can do it, I mean, he might have to. King might have to show it on special teams. So, but I'm interested to see how that works out. Remy, how do you do the linebacker position and win base? That's a good question. If it were me, I'd probably have Brian Maffey brought it up a little earlier. McDuffie and Sam might make sense, but I think you could interchange. I think there's a lot that could be interchanged. I think you could see Walker or Cooper at Sam with some of those responsibilities. Like Cooper could potentially play Sam even at that size. He's got the length. He's got the the speed. Quay at the will is always really good, having that ability, and McDuffie has played some Mike, so that's not an impossible grouping. Quay at will, McDuffie at Mike, and Edge at Sam. But you could flip Cooper and Quay. You could put Quay at Mike. Like there are a lot of options. Really are, and you pointed that out, Remy, for sure. So. Yeah, there you go. I think I want to hit on one thing before we get out of here. Just some of Nagy's comments on this class. Obviously, 8 draft picks in the Senior Bowl. He talks about, a lot of them in depth. Can Hopper play Sam? Maybe. I feel like I'd trust him more at will at this point than Sam, but I don't know. Maybe. It's not impossible. Remy, yeah, good point. If they're interchangeable. Yeah, I just feel like X with the green dot makes the most sense. I just feel like that's where it's going to be needed most. Especially because if they feel like there's the versatility with all these guys at linebacker, they're going to have the constant back there, and McKinney's exactly the player you want to have it. So but yeah, quickly Nagy's thoughts on this group. Talks about Morgan as just a slam dunk left tackle athlete. Jumps off tape. We talked about footwork, the mirror skills, recovery quicks, right? Easy laterally, second level. And Nagy thinks he'll be even better next fall. Another year removed from ACL. And it is true. Just think about how good Morgan was off of the ACL tear very quickly. So Nagy talks about Bullard being interchangeable between free safety and strong safety with nickel flexibility. Instinctive and competitive are great ways to describe him. If you had to make a really small elevator pitch, eyes trigger to make plays for sure. Yeah, strapped together physically, more physical than measurables for sure. And I love it. Long-term building block in the secondary, absolutely. Marshon Lloyd, yeah. See, Nagy did. He thought Marshon Lloyd was the top running back in the draft. It's his high praise for sure. Him and Jacobs give the Pack one of the best 1-2 running back rotations in the league. Elusive, explosive, and fun lateral cutter. Way more dangerous in the pass game than stats suggest. I think he will be that. True 3-down back, I think, comes down to how he can improve in pass pro. But other than that, yeah. Agreed there. Okay. So, Remy says Hopper can definitely play Sam. Good pass rusher and cover elite tight ends like Bowers. Yeah, I mean, there you go. There you go. I just thought the Hopper is just an interesting eval for me. Trying to place him more than any of these other guys, really. I feel like I mentioned it earlier. Hopper is the player I struggle to place the most. So Remy, I trust you on that. Hey Lee, how's it going? Says just got in. Was Evan Williams hit on for being nickel? I think he'll be great there. We talked about it a little bit. Felt like I think some of the consensus was more about playing Bullard at nickel and playing Evan Williams at strong safety. But I think he can play nickel as well. I think that versatility is there. With Williams, speaking of, Jim Nagy said many teams we've spoken with were targeting him early day 3 when Green Bay traded up. Falls into the good football player bucket. I don't know about good center field skill set. Little disagree there, but I think it's okay. Boosted stock with excellent Senior Bowl game performance. Sub down options is a big deal. That's something Green Bay probably took into account. Could see him at free safety with Bullard moving into nickel for sure. More strong safety than free safety because of Xavier McKinney, which I'm not sure Nagy took into account or maybe slipped his mind for a second there. Talks about Oladapo is different than Bullard and Williams. Big, strong safety prospect. Yeah, this is where he says trying him at dime linebacker. So, developmental piece behind McKinney. I don't know if Nagy thinks McKinney is a strong safety only. If so, completely disagree there. I don't know why Green Bay be paying him that much if he was only a strong safety, but is what it is. He talks about Glover as huge, expansive human. Only in-week addition, acquitted himself well, wasn't overwhelmed. I know Coach Hewlin kind of talked about that. He put that in the comments a little earlier. More than held his own in one-on-one. Swing offensive tackle in year 2 to 3 window. I think that's a good way to put it. And Nagy talks about Pratt the same way as biggest surprise fall in the entire draft. Accurate touch thrower, athletic enough to escape. Yeah, he stands and delivers under pressure. Higher grade on Pratt than Clifford. Solid number 2 floor. Yeah. Might be the old school Ron Wolf flip for higher pick in a few years is a great little nugget there as well. And Kalen King was in many way too early first round mocks, 100%. He definitely got tested opposite Porter. Didn't feel like he had the same assignments as Porter, which is noteworthy. Yeah, could be a steal if they unlock that confidence from 2 years ago. So that's interesting. Just thought that was interesting to put in some of Nagy's thoughts on the class as well. But yeah, Remy says Jeremiah and Sims. Yeah, I know Jeremiah had him as the top guy, but Sims had him as well. A lot of love for Marshon Lloyd. Oh, my dad was a big fan when we were down there at the Senior Bowl. He was a big fan of Lloyd. I know that's his favorite pick for sure. Lots of Williams talked about halfway through earlier. Yeah, nickel box safety. We definitely talked about that. Yeah, Dwayne Carter was there instead of Hopper. I mean, so was Cedric Gray, right? We kind of talked about Gray maybe be more defined than Hopper. But yeah, I would have loved to see them add defensive line in some capacity. They just didn't. Obviously, they're deep enough there, right? So they didn't necessarily have to, but could have been thinking longer term. Would have loved Dwayne Carter's power at defensive tackle, no doubt about that. Coach Hewlin says would have loved Quay at Sam, Hopper at Mike, and Cooper at Will. Also a possibility in 4-3, but probably in 4. Yeah, that's what's tough is when they're I'm interested. I'm just really interested to see what they do in base, right? Because in nickel we kind of have a better idea of how it's going to look, other than who's playing slot and who's playing strong safety, which we think is one of two guys, and maybe Nixon loses a starting job. But really, how they line up in 4-3 base is going to be the most interesting for sure. So, but yeah, we've been going for a while on this, over 2 hours on the draft class. Glad that you guys tuned in for this. We had a lively group tonight. Appreciate Remy for being new, dropping in, and really helping carry the chat tonight. And Brian Claycomb as well for dropping into. I know all the Josephs were in here. Joseph S. and Joseph Gleason were. I know Coach Hewlin, Mark Zambito, Mark Sawyer, Lee dropping in late, Ayers Joy. I know Cody was in here earlier, AFAM, Brian Mafia, of course, Adam Huddle as well. There were so many of y'all in here. Bubba One was in here. It's good to be back. M. Smitty, so many of you. SDM 40, Chris. It's good to see y'all this week. And hopefully we'll be, I don't know if we'll do another later this week. We'll see. Friday's definitely out for me, unfortunately, because of real life work. So that kind of stinks. But at the very least, we'll be back next week at the similar Friday night time, which will be good. Other than that, I'll be probably hanging out with y'all in the comments for a lot of Clayton streams, which I got to catch up on for sure. But the good news is that content is going to be flowing in the form of obviously videos. So, got the Jacob Monk one came out today. I was going to release Evan Williams tomorrow, but maybe I'll take a look at some of the Fresno stuff first before we release it. So you might get Oladapo tomorrow then instead. And not non-Packers related, but Malachi Corley as well and his fit with the Jets, which will be cool. For those that are still interested in how Rodgers, Hackett, and company are doing out there in the Big Apple. So, yeah, so those will be tomorrow. Rest of the draft class will be kind of rounded up this week and maybe early next. And then we'll get to some of how Carl Brooks played and how Wicks played and how Reed played and LVN, and I'm really excited about that with the rookie film room. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. And yeah, again, Remy, appreciate you joining and hanging out, saying Hopper's a natural Mike. Yeah, he's just shedding blocks is a big. He definitely retreats a lot at the point of attack, which is not good. Heading out, thanks Ayers Joy. Thank you, Coach Hewlin, of course. Thank you, Remy. Thank you, Lee, for popping in here late. Hopper's bad period, just IMO. It's fair. It's fair. Yeah, Lee, definitely rewatch, take a peek. But good to see you here at the end of the live. So, yeah, we definitely got into a lot of discussion about all these guys. So it was really, really good. Joseph either fibbing about linebackers not being specific or, yeah, he might not know. It might be kind of a trial and error, figure out what the best spot is for all these guys. Could be possible. So, yeah. Reportedly, Malachi Corley's renting guest house. Yeah, I did hear that. Yeah. Corley will be fun. Garrett Wilson now. He's wearing Garrett Wilson's old number. So that'll be interesting. But, yeah. So those will be out tomorrow. Rest of the class this week. Thank you guys again. Thank you, Mark, of course. Thank you all. I will catch you guys with videos this week, and then hopefully get back on the live train with Derailed and a lot of that very soon. But yeah, thanks again. And I will catch you guys.